Welcome back to The Cognitive Drift. It is January 11th, 2026. We are officially 11 days into the year, which means if you made a resolution to stop being sarcastic on the internet, you've likely failed spectacularly by now. Welcome to the club. We have jackets. They're made of irony and sweat-wicking fabric.
I'm your host, Maple, and today we're looking at a piece of advice so paradoxical, it might actually cause a rift in the space-time continuum. We're talking about life lessons from a guy whose former job description was professional lawbreaker. So grab your caffeinated beverage of choice, sit down, and let's talk about why the guy who spent the 80s dodging the feds now wants you to be a model citizen.
So let's get into it. Our messenger is none other than Michael Franzese, the prince of the mafia, a former capo for the Colombo crime family. Yeah, that guy. He's now conquered YouTube with a silver tongue and a very well-tailored vest, and he's weighing in on the recent ICE shooting in Minneapolis. And look, the irony here is so thick you could spread it on toast. Franzese is using this whole tragic event to advocate for, get this, total compliance. It's an incredible pivot, right? It's like getting marriage advice from Henry VIII, or health tips from a guy who lives on gas station hot dogs. A man who literally built his career on circumventing the law is now the poster child for just do what the officer says.
So what's his main credential for dishing out this advice? It's not a law degree. It's this number, 18. He has been arrested 18 times. That's not a criminal record. That's a frequent flyer program with the Department of Justice.
I mean, he's basically the Yelp reviewer of precinct holding cells. The sarcasm just writes itself. But you know what? When a guy who survived the mob and 18 run-ins with the law tells you to keep your hands on the wheel, you kind of have to listen. Even if you're rolling your eyes so hard, you see your own brain. So what's the actual message he's built on this mountain of arrest reports? Franzese argues that resisting law enforcement is, and I quote, a futile and dangerous choice, no matter what your politics are. He's basically saying his experience has taught him a universal truth about what happens when you decide to argue with a badge and a gun. And there it is. That's the core of his argument, straight from the man himself. It's brutally simple, isn't it? Why would you fight a battle you are absolutely guaranteed to lose on the spot? He says you can't win against an officer on the street. The real fight, if you have one, happens in a courtroom with lawyers, not on the pavement. And he's even broken it down for us. It's a simple 4-step program, personally field-tested over almost 2 decades. Step 1, offer your hands. 2, they put the handcuffs on. 3, get in the car. 4, go through the process. The whole point is to de-escalate everything with immediate, total compliance. And this is where his whole philosophy comes from. It wasn't just some idea he had. It was learned the hard way. When he was 19, during a protest, he actually punched a police officer. His words, not mine. He says he was promptly beaten up with billy clubs and dragged into a paddy wagon. He learned his lesson right then and there. You can't win that fight. For the next 17 arrests, he followed his own advice to the letter. Every single time. Okay, so if it's that simple, why do people resist? Well, according to Franzese, the blame doesn't really lie with the protesters or even the police. He points the finger straight to the top, at what he calls the idiot politicians who create a climate that encourages this kind of resistance. He's basically arguing that the rhetoric coming from certain political leaders is just raising the temperature, telling their constituents, either directly or indirectly, to go out and confront federal agents. He sees that as a complete death sentence. And he does not hold back. He specifically calls out this list of Democratic politicians. He calls them self-serving and hypocritical, saying they care more about their anti-Trump, anti-Republican stance than they do about the actual safety of the people they're supposed to represent. On the other hand, this is how he describes ICE agents. He says they're not the problem here. They're just family people doing the job that Congress gave them. They're enforcing laws, not writing them, and they are trained to protect themselves. So for Franzese, resisting them isn't some noble political act, it's just picking a fight with someone who is armed, trained, and has the legal authority to end that fight. All right, hang on. Let's take a quick compliance break. Look, unlike the feds or mob enforcer, I'm asking for your support very politely. No subpoenas involved, I promise. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the absurdity of 1980s mob logic meeting 2026 reality, do me a solid, smash that subscribe button, leave a 5-star review, and write something like, "This explainer is a made man in my ears." It totally confuses the algorithms, triggers the SEO bots, and makes me feel slightly more important than I actually am. Do it now, before I have to send an ex-mobster to your house to check on your compliance. I'm kidding. Please don't call the police.
Okay, let's bring it all home. The big takeaway here is just a masterclass in irony. The secret to a long life, according to a guy who used to run a multi-million-dollar gasoline tax scam, is to just say yes, sir, and no, sir. It's truly the ultimate do as I say, not as I did for 3 decades moment. Franzese has built this whole new career on explaining the rules of a world he spent his entire early life breaking. And, maybe, just maybe, that makes him the most qualified person on the planet to explain the consequences.
So there you have it. It's a wild world in 2026, where our moral compasses are being calibrated by guys who used to carry insurance in their trunk. This explainer was produced by the legendary FireflyHaku. Now, I'm fairly certain Haku has 0 arrests, which makes them much more qualified than Michael Franzese to run a legitimate business, but probably much less qualified to tell you how to act in a police lineup.
Haku runs this production like a tight-knit family, minus the racketeering and with much better audio equipment. They handle the levels, I handle the levels of SaaS. It's a beautiful and totally legal partnership. So go out there, be safe, and for the love of all things holy, keep your hands where everyone can see them.
Stay skeptical.